could not see their faces. He could not see their uniforms. He could not even see the weapon in his own hands. Yet that night, 200 enemy soldiers never saw the sunrise. In the suffocating darkness of a Pacific jungle, where fear crawled louder than footsteps, a U.S. Marine stood alone, blind, wounded, bleeding, and completely surrounded. No vision, no backup, no escape. And still, he became a nightmare. This is not a legend. This is not propaganda. This is one of the most terrifying one-night battles of World War II, and the man at its center never saw a single enemy he killed. His name rarely appears in textbooks. No statues. No Hollywood movies. He was just another Marine, trained, disciplined, and sent into hell like thousands of others. Before the war, he was ordinary. A farm boy. A laborer. A man whose hands were more familiar with dirt than with blood. He joined the Marines not chasing glory but duty. By 1943, the Pacific War had turned into a brutal contest of survival. Islands were not conquered, they were bled for. The Japanese Imperial Army did not retreat. They did not surrender. They attacked at night, and night was coming. The island was small on maps, but on the ground it was endless. Thick jungle, razor-sharp coral, mud that swallowed boots, humidity that crushed lungs. The Japanese defenders were masters of darkness. They moved silently, struck suddenly, and vanished like ghosts. Entire Marine platoons had been wiped out in night assaults before anyone could react. That night, intelligence failed. The perimeter was thin. The jungle was alive. And then, the artillery hit. The explosion did not kill him. It would have been easier if it had. Shrapnel ripped through his face. Dirt, smoke, and blood flooded his eyes. The pain was immediate. And then came the darkness. Not shadows. Not blur. Total blindness. He screamed for help, but the battlefield swallowed his voice. Around him, Marines were dying. Positions collapsed. Communication vanished. Medics never reached him. By all logic, he should have been dead within minutes. Instead, he listened. Blindness did not end the fight. It sharpened it. He heard boots pressing into wet soil. He smelled sweat, oil, gunpowder. He felt vibrations through the ground of bodies moving, rifles being shifted, bayonets being fixed. Every sense except sight became a weapon. The first enemy died inches from him. A hand brushed his leg. He reacted. A knife. A gasp. Silence. He didn't celebrate. He didn't panic. He waited. The Japanese launched a full Banzai-style infiltration, wave after wave, believing the position was broken. They were wrong. They walked into a man who could not see fear because he could not see at all. He fired only when he heard breathing. He stabbed only when he felt movement. He moved positions by crawling, counting seconds, memorizing terrain by touch. Enemies thought he was a unit, then a squad, then a machine gun nest. In reality, he was alone. At one point, he stopped shooting entirely. Gunfire gave away position. Instead, he let them come close. He grabbed rifles from the dead and placed them in different directions. He threw empty helmets. He mimicked whispered commands in broken Japanese. Confusion spread. Japanese soldiers fired at shadows, at sounds, at each other. The blind Marine did not rush. He harvested. The night dragged on. His hands were cut. His arms burned. Blood, his and theirs, soaked the ground. He lost count after 50. Bodies piled in places he had crawled minutes earlier. Some enemies tried to retreat. Others charged blindly, screaming. They believed an entire Marine force was hidden in the jungle. There wasn't. There was only a blind man who refused to die. Just before dawn, the attack slowed. The jungle fell quiet, not peaceful but stunned. He lay motionless, knife in hand, breathing shallowly, listening for one last trick. When sunlight finally cut through the trees, Marines from a counterattack unit found him. At first, they thought he was dead. Then he spoke. "I can't see." As daylight revealed the battlefield, silence turned into disbelief. Japanese bodies were everywhere. Around trenches, behind trees, near positions that should not have existed. Officers counted, and counted again. Nearly 200 enemy soldiers. One night, one Marine. Zero vision. Doctors confirmed it. Temporary blindness caused by trauma and debris. He survived. His sight eventually returned, but something else never did. The man he was before that night never came back. He never bragged, never glorified it. He rarely spoke of it at all, because heroes don't relive hell for entertainment. When the sun climbed higher, the battlefield revealed its truth. Japanese bodies lay in unnatural positions, not clustered like a single firefight, but scattered as if death had moved intelligently through the jungle. Some were shot from behind. Others stabbed at close range. Many had never even fired their weapons. Marine officers walked slowly, stepping over corpses, trying to understand how one man could create this pattern. There were no heavy machine guns, no mortar craters, no sign of a reinforced unit, just blood, silence, and confusion. Veterans who had fought from Guadalcanal to Tarawa said the same thing. This wasn't a battle. This was a hunt. Captured Japanese documents later revealed something chilling. Survivors of the attack believed they had encountered a new American tactic, a silent night fighter unit trained to kill without light. Some even reported that the Marine could see in the dark. They were wrong. He couldn't see at all, and that made it worse, because fear spreads faster when the enemy cannot be explained. Japanese morale in that sector collapsed. Night attacks stopped for days. Commanders hesitated. Patrols doubled back in panic. One blind Marine had done what artillery and airstrikes often failed to do. He broke the enemy's nerve. Later, when asked how he survived the night, the Marine gave no heroic speech. He said only this: "I stopped thinking. Thinking makes noise. In the darkness, panic was death. So he became quiet, inside and out." He described how time disappeared. Minutes felt like seconds. Sounds felt closer than they were. His body moved before his mind could argue. Psychologists later described this state as combat dissociation, the mind cutting away fear to keep the body alive. But there was a price. The Marine received commendations. His officers recommended honors. His unit spoke his name with awe. But at night he woke screaming. Even after his sight returned, he avoided bright rooms. Sudden sounds made his hands reach for weapons that were no longer there. He never counted the dead again. Because numbers don't leave footprints in your dreams, and faces do. And though he never saw those faces, he felt them. Military history loves clean victories. This story was not clean. It was brutal, uncomfortable, too close to the truth of what war really is. So it faded into after-action reports, buried beneath larger battles and famous names. But among Marines it survived, reigned past quietly, respectfully. Not as a boast. As a warning. Technology fails. Plans collapse. Visibility disappears. What remains is the human will to survive. That night proved something terrifying. A man does not need sight to fight. He does not need numbers to win. He does not even need hope. He only needs the refusal to stop. Historians later compared this event with famous night actions in the Pacific. Alligator Creek, Edson's Ridge, Okinawa infiltrations. None matched the single combat lethality of this night. Not because of superior weapons, but because the enemy faced something they could not psychologically defeat. An opponent who did not react like a normal human being. After the war, he returned home quietly. No interviews, no speeches, no fame. Neighbors knew him as a calm, reserved man who hated fireworks and preferred silence. He never joined veterans groups. When asked about the war, he simply said, "Some nights never end." In an age of drones, satellites, and smart weapons, this story feels impossible. And that's why it matters. Because it reminds us that war is not won by machines alone. It is endured by human beings pushed beyond what should be possible. And sometimes, those humans do things that even history is afraid to remember. Legends are loud when they are born, but they grow quiet as they age. In the weeks after the battle, officers stopped talking about the night in detail. Reports became shorter. Numbers were rounded. Language softened, because even hardened veterans struggled to explain it. How do you describe a man who fought an entire night without vision, yet controlled the battlefield better than those who could see? You don't. You file it away and move on. Japanese doctrine relied on spirit, aggression, and intimidation, especially at night. The belief was simple. Break the enemy's nerve and victory follows. But that night, intimidation failed. The Marine did not shout. He did not charge. He did not panic. He let the enemy expose themselves. And in doing so, he shattered one of the most powerful psychological weapons of the Imperial Army, fear through darkness. Medical officers later studied his wounds. Loss of blood, facial trauma, severe concussion. By all medical standards, he should have been unconscious. Instead, his body entered a state soldiers rarely talk about: pure survival mode. No heroism, no hatred, just motion. His hands moved because stopping meant death. 200 sounds unreal, but numbers are easier than truth. Each number was a person who believed they were hunting a broken enemy position, not realizing they were walking into a human trap. The Marine never celebrated the count, because killing at that scale doesn't feel like victory. It feels like survival stretched too far. Some believe the military tried to recreate this type of night fighting. They didn't, because what happened cannot be trained. You can teach night vision, you can teach tactics. You cannot teach a man to function blind, wounded, and alone for hours and without breaking. That night was not doctrine. It was anomaly. The jungle itself became his ally. Roots told him where he was. Insects warned him of movement. Birds falling silent signaled danger. Sight is not the only sense evolution gives a hunter. That night the Marine became something older than warfare, something primal. Decades later, surviving Marines spoke cautiously. They admired him, but they were also disturbed. One veteran said, "I was glad he was on our side, and I prayed I'd never meet him in the dark." Every war creates men who cross a line, not by choice but by necessity. The Marine never saw himself as a hero. Heroes act by choice. He acted because stopping meant dying, and that distinction haunted him. This story does not fit comfortably into medals and ceremonies. It forces uncomfortable questions. What happens when survival overrides humanity? How far can a man go before he stops being himself? That is why this story was never celebrated loudly. It doesn't inspire cheers. It inspires silence. In old age, his eyesight weakened again, naturally this time. When asked if blindness frightened him, he answered calmly, "I've been there before." He passed away quietly, without speeches, without headlines. But the men who knew the story never forgot. That night proved something terrifying and true. When stripped of sight, when stripped of comfort, when stripped of identity, a human being can still fight. And sometimes, the most dangerous soldier on the battlefield is the one who no longer needs to see. History remembers generals. Battles remember numbers. But the jungle remembers something else. A blind Marine who turned darkness itself into a weapon.